Hello, welcome to another setting video. Today I'm continuing with the puzzle. I called it YY Killer, but that's more of a placeholder, I think. Might not be, I'll see. I have been thinking about it for the past few days, and I had some ideas, and I'm going to show what I had, but that is still possible to change, because I didn't like the way it ended up. But I'll show, and we'll tweak it as long as we go. This extra nub is movable, so I'm going to move that over here because what I wanted to do is because we did the right side, right? I want to go back to the left side. And what I had in my head is some shape like this, right? This makes that blue as well. What this shape does is makes it so that that is a high digit, so that is 6, 7, 8, or 9. It couldn't be 9, so it does contain a 1. This one and this one makes that a 9 with a 2, 3, 4. Now this is 6, 7, 8. 6, 7, or 8. This couldn't be 6 because that would put a 2 and a 3 there. It couldn't be 7 for the same reason. What also is possible to see is that these sum to 15, and this is a minimum of 2 because of this 1, so these sum to 17, right? That's what I can do. I can move this orange up, making this blue move up as well. This is a very easy step, right? If once you've seen this, you'll be able to see this probably quite quickly, which then is 1, 2, 5. Placing a 2 there, making these 6, 7, 8, 9, right? With that not being a 9, that not being a 7, I guess, and that not being a 6 or a 9. What I then thought was interesting is if we make this a cage, and we add, how many cells do we need to add to it for them all having to be blue? Because the minimum we can make these, right? What's the minimum we can make this? It does contain a 9, and then with 6 and 7, so 22. So what's the minimum amount of cells to make 22? We can add 8, because we haven't yet added 8. Then 5. It's the next smallest digit, 13. 4. 17. What's the number we had to get to? 22. 8, 5, 13, 17, 20, 22. So we can add 5 cells to it, and they would all have to be blue. Right. Is that always true? Yeah, because if you add 8 instead of 7, the number only gets bigger. Wow. So we can add 5 cells to it, and they all have to be blue. Is that true? That seems unrealistic. 6, 7, 9, 13, 22. 22, 8 makes 14, 9, and 2, 3, 4, yeah. That is the case, I guess. So if we implement something like this, I just drew a random shape, but I want to see what I can do with it. Then those are orange, that's a problem, because now that's blue and we have a checkerboard pattern, so that doesn't work. So what am I saying? Not both of those can be blue. Then that's orange, that's orange. So not both of those can be blue. So that cannot be blue in this instance. Or I have to redraw this cage like this. I don't know if I like that. Well, now one of those is an 8. That is interesting. I could also move this 8 up and move this 9 up. That's possible. I'm going to see what this brings me. Not much. If I move that 8 up, that's orange, but that doesn't do much more. Maybe I can make this shape a bit more interesting. Like this. What does this do? If that's now like this, then that's orange. That is orange. Not a lot. And it does contain... What does it contain? 2, 3, 4, 5, and 8. In this case, both those are 8. That's not 2 or 5. Or 8. So that's a 3, 4 pair. That's 3, 4. Now that has to be an 8. No, that's not true. Wait. So that's now not 3 or 4 or 8. So one of those is an 8 and a 2 and a 5. Do I like this? That does mean that that's a 7. Doesn't mean much else. I'm unsure. And if you go up, you still perform the same thing. But now that's blue and still 2, 5, or 8. That's still not as interesting. I feel like I can do much more with this. There is a better shape for this. If I somehow... So not both of those can be blue. Also one of those is a 2. So for example... Yeah, one of those is a 2. This is also a possibility, isn't it? I'm not sure. It isn't, but I can move this up. That's what I thought. Because now... Right, let's do that. I'm going to do that just so I can look at it for a second. Like this. Orange with 9. Blue with an 8, right? Now that's orange, that is orange. That's blue. That is blue. And then we must not create a checkerboard pattern, so not those. Now that is orange. That is blue. That is blue. Those are orange. Oh, those are orange. But does this work in terms of that cage? Because now that has to be an 8. And that has to be a 2, so that doesn't work. Right. So there's no way to fit. Okay, so there's no way to fit that. I could have assumed so. Go back. Right. We have this, but that's invalid. I do really like this though. This, what I have here. This is possible. Let's see what this does, because I wanna just see. Orange. Doesn't do much, does it? What does it mean for the cage? 2, 3, 4, 5, 8. That's almost something. I'm not sure if I like that. In fact, no, I don't think I do. No, I don't. I still want to draw, so I have to add 4 more cells to this. That's a shape. I'm not sure if I've looked at this yet. And again, I can move this 8, but I think it's okay there for now. If I move this 8 up, it places an 8 there as well, placing an 8 there. Well, let's look at that. I'm going to look at that. This is just a bit of trial and error, but I think that is at this point a course of action, because I have my opener and now it is just being able to finish the puzzle without giving too much away. This isn't 2 or 5, so that's not 3 or 4, 3 or 4. So we know that that's a 5 and that's a 2. That's quite a bit. And we know that that's an 8. I like this state. I like this state quite a bit. Right, because now we're also saying that that's 7. Those are an 8 and there's not 7. Well, that's an 8. So also one of those is an 8. Interesting. Does that mean something for this cage, right? Can the 8 ever be in the 3 cell? Because, right, this is divided in 2 cells and 3 cells. Does the 8 belong in the 2 cell area? Does the 8 belong in the 2 cell area? No, in the 3 cell area. You cannot add 1 and 2 to it. So the minimum you can add is 1 and 3. Because, right, however you draw the 2 cell area, it always, one of those cells will see the 1 and the 2. So 1 and 3 is the minimum. So that's 12. There is no 9 in there, so it's not 9, 3. It then cannot be 8, 4. Could be 5, 7. Right. If it's part of the 3 cell area, it adds 5, 7, but that would have to be 7 and 5. Because that sees a 7. So in any case, this cannot be orange. But only if that cell is in this cage. Because if that's orange, then this is part of the thing. Then we have, well, if that is orange, we have a bigger problem, I think, because then all those 3 are orange, and then we cannot add 1, 2, or 3, 4, so 3, 5 is the minimum. Then we have 11, 16, and that cannot be 16, so that's not orange. And that's independent of where this is. But it is dependent on the position of the cage. Right, because if we scoot this one to the left, that isn't the same thing anymore. Okay. That does make sense. I quite like what I have here. Well, this is orange, I guess, because it has to get out. I want to do something with this, because it either goes out like this or it goes out like this. Does this 8 need a 9 to be an 8? I'm going to check that. If I uncolor this and these, I'm going to check that for a second. that is still okay. Let's make those 7, 8 again. Let's move this here for a second. Now I don't know about this. I don't know about this. Okay, well. That's all orange. That is blue. I just want to see. Because if that's the case, I think that's more interesting. Right, I said that these are a minimum of 17, so one of those is a 9. So they are 7, 8, and 9. And so could that be a 3? That couldn't ever be a 3. It could be a 3. Right. If that's a 3, what am I saying? 15, 18. That's not possible. That's not a 3. So that's always a 2. So these are a minimum of 15. Oh, right. That's always 17. So that's always 7 and 8. 7 and 9. 8 and 9. Yeah, okay. So that could just be 9. That could be 8. And that's still the case. And it still does the same thing. It's not dependent on this. But it is dependent on this 1. Okay, no, I like that. That's fine. 1, 2, 5, 3, 4, and then we had 8, 7, 6, 9 pair. Then that's an 8. And this is 2, 3, 4, 5 with not 2 or 5, so not 3 or 4. So 5, a 2. We had this, right? Yes. And that now an 8. And all of these blue. Those orange. Yes. Okay, this is where we were. So what now? I haven't had anything further than this yet. I thought up to this needs to have a 5-cell cage attached, and I didn't even think about the shape yet. I just thought it was interesting. What I can do is instead of placing the 2 down here, it could also be up here. And that gives the same... No, because then that 8 doesn't see that cell. That's true. But that'll always be a 3-4 pair. Right, so what is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 9. Not 9. Not 9. So we know that that's a 9. Interesting as well. Because... Is that interesting? Yeah, well, if I connect these two together, right, with a cage, how many blue ones do I have to have attached? I could use 8 again. Instead, unless I do like this. So that's 15 as a minimum. If I cannot use 8, how do we make 15? 7, 5, 3 with 3 cells. You cannot use 7 in this row. So 16, 6. You used all the high digits. All the high digits have been used in this row. That is interesting, I think. So either that's a 2 or that's a 2. Weird. I'm just thinking about stuff to do with that, right? Because I know I haven't done much yet, and I've just been mainly thinking. But from this point onward, what do I want? If this is not if this is a 4, that could be orange. I kind of want that to be orange just because I think it's funny. How do I force that? If these are blue, do I force that? Yes. So I need to get these blues somehow. I don't know yet. But I think sprouting off from this 9, because that's the last thing you kind of encounter, right? I think that's interesting. Because if I go within this, that breaks. We know that breaks. Because the highest thing you can add is 3, 4, 5, which is 12. So I need one more cell. But that cell could then be a high digit. Yeah. Let's say I add this cell, right? If any of these is orange, what does that mean? If we have that orange, we can add 1 to it, so we have 16. So we need to make 16 and 3 cells. Without using 8 or 9. That is possible. But I cannot use 6 and 7. So we have 7, 5, and 4. So if one of those is orange, the blue ones are 7, 4, 5. And if... Can they all be orange? Can they all be blue? Alright, let's add it for a second. If these are all blue, is that a problem? I do not think it is. But one could be orange. That's what we said. We know that it is not this one. Right, I still want to keep that cage. We know that it is not that one. But one of those could be orange. So what can that be? Does that have to be a 7? Because I think that's, again, sort of funny if that has to be a 7. Could it be a 6? Could be, and it could be more, I guess, because this could be, 3, 4, 5, so 8, 12. It could be a 3. Is there a way to make it so that... Yeah, we can make it so there has to be an orange one. Right? Now they can not all be blue. Because then we create a 2x2. So one of those has to be orange. And we know it's not that one. And we know it cannot be 2 of them. So one of those is blue. So one of those blue, one is orange. If that's blue, then both of those are orange. And all those are orange. All of these are orange. If this is blue, saying that's orange. Saying that that's blue, saying that that is orange. So that is always orange. In both cases, that is orange, isn't it? Let's see, no. Yeah. Oh, well, okay. It is because of that 2 by 2. Wow. But I think this is interesting. Because I said that now that cannot be 16, because 16 in 3 cells. We can use 7, and we have to create another instance of 9. No, wait, yeah. Another instance of 9, but that could be 4 or 5, right? Oh, but putting a 7 there, making 16, cannot use a 7. So then we have 6, and then we have to make 10 without another high digit. That's not possible. So at this point we know that this is 6, creating 15 with 3, 5, 7. So these are 3, 5, and 7. So we know that that's a 7, we know that that's a 7, we know that that's a 3 or 5. And the other blue digit is also a 3 or 5. So that's not a 5. Oh, well, we still have to add 1. So that's not true. This is 4, 5. I'm sorry. This is 4, 5. And this is 1, 4, 5. Because if we add anything more, we have a problem. Right. Makes sense. So 1, 4, 5. So that's a 2. So that's not a 2. 1, 4, 5. Making that a 3. So that's not a 3. So either this is blue, that is orange, or it's the other way around. Does any of these break? I want one of them to break, but I don't think it will. No, I don't think it will. Four isn't one of those. Well, we know that that's a 7 now. We don't know the color of these. So what am I missing? 1, 2, 3. So we know that that's a 3. 9 and 6. So one of those is 6. Okay. 6 places a 6 there. Places a 6 in one of those two, so that places a 6 there. So I'm missing 1, 2, 4. With that not being a 4. This is a 1. This is a 2 or 5. It's not a 2. It's not a 1, a 2, or a 5. It's not a 1 or a 2, so it's a 5. So that's a 1, that's a 2, that's a 5. I like that. That is cool. So this is 1 and 4. Well, more 1 and 4. So those aren't 1s. So that's a 4. Place another 1 there. Why are you broken? Why? Why does it have to be this way? This is from adding that cage. Why did it break? I guess that's just what it is, isn't it? Why did you break? Right, what I'm thinking is there must be an underlying Sudoku reason that I'm just not grasping fully yet. Okay, so scratch that for a second. That was a lot of thinking for nothing. Also, that is kind of what I have planned for today. I will take some time and look at it a bit more in my own time and show you what I have next time I do this. Thank you for watching. I did not make as much progress as I hoped, but that's how it goes. Have a nice day and try this out for yourself. Bye bye.